Okay, final news story of the week. Interesting quote here from AMD's Mark Papermaster. Mark Papermaster.
It's a good name. It's such a good name.
It's a great name. And it's a very specific quote, and it's this: 2024 for us is a huge year because we have spent so many years developing hardware and software capabilities for AI. We've just completed AI enabling our entire portfolio, so cloud edge PCs, our embedded devices, our gaming devices. We're enabling our gaming devices to upscale using AI, and 2024 is really a huge deployment year for us. So now the bedrock's there, the capabilities are there. Alex, what does he mean? Gaming devices is quite specific in that it's not really talking about GPUs in the desktop PC sense, I suspect.
Yeah.
But it's kind of curious that they're talking about spending a lot of development resources on AI because in the consumer space, we've not really seen anything from AMD.
We haven't yet, and that's why it's very actually. I'm still not exactly sure what this is directly referencing, and so the ideal goal that I think a lot of people who follow AMD and follow PC GPUs and stuff is they want FSR to transition over to an AI model version, ML version. Just like DLSS and XeSS has, that improves quality and gets rid of the issues that FSR2 has. That's what I think people want. But this could actually be referencing something else completely. It could be referencing like a dummy AI upscaler, as in a pure spatial process upscaler, just like NVIDIA Shield had back in the day, just like how do you like kind of like, you know, how the AI upscaling for videos works with NVIDIA. It could be referencing technology like that. And it not being very specific actually makes me a bit worried that it is that and it's not actually FSR being driven by machine learning. The reason why I'm a little bit curious about like how they would deploy it if it were FSR in the first place would be that they would have to have some sort of cutoff about what AMD portfolio GPUs can actually support it. I'm not sure how willing they are to do that based on their stances in the past. There would also have to be some sort of middle ground deployment there that would have to exist that makes it cross-platform for the most part, because I'm thinking with GPU open that they would want to keep pushing that initiative because it's their way to make developers invest in their technology. Who knows? Maybe this also is a plug-in to DirectX SR where they're going to offer through their driver a better version of FSR that may use machine learning for future hardware that's coming out, RDNA 4. But at the moment, based upon what I read in that sentiment and the way it's phrased, I would actually be surprised if it was referencing FSR being machine learning. That's my personal opinion, though. Obviously, other people can read this in any other way they want.
Well, I agree entirely with you because I'm seeing headlines saying things like AMD teases next gen FSR upscaling tech with AI when there's not actually any reference to FSR whatsoever in that particular quotation. And
Right.
when they're talking about gaming devices, typically they're talking about consoles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this could be a PlayStation 5 thing. It could be something they've been involved with. I mean, typically when it comes to stuff like reconstruction, Sony likes to do its own thing, build its own custom solutions using AMD hardware, of course.
Right.
So it's a very vague statement, and we just don't know what it means, except something is happening in 2024. We, what
PS5
it could
Pro,
be.
the PS5
Well,
Professional.
the other thing, of course, is that the stuff that Sony did with PS4 Pro for checkerboarding never made it into the PC space at all, really. The
Really.
ID
Yeah.
buffer, yeah. So there's no guarantee that what's happening in the gaming devices will actually arrive on PC at all. But surely at some point AMD has got to talk more about AI on its RDNA stuff. Because so
Right.
far we see nothing. In fact, actually, Alex, thinking about it, when we met Frank Azor at Gamescom, he was talking about how NVIDIA spends a lot of die area on stuff like
Right.
tensor cores. And the implication there was that he didn't really think it was a great use of area.
That's pretty interesting. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, maybe they've got some other solution, but surely at some point there has to be that sort of coming together where AI is going to play such a key role in gaming going forward, not just from upscaling. Upscaling is just the beginning, right? AMD's already 4 years behind on that,
Yeah.
since DLSS2 came along and basically changed the landscape there.
Yeah, I really wish they'd get with the times there. I do think it's actually worth the die space being spent. The only thing, like AMD has different considerations that I always forget about. Like technically, they have to worry about like deploying similar architectures because, like, as much as they have to worry about deploying the architecture on platforms that have more constrained resources always. So they have to think a little bit more like, and NVIDIA can just target desktop GPUs for the most part and laptops. And then, the AI sector on the side of that, which is now using completely different chips. So I think that they have like different considerations always, and that's driven their research. And I'm like worried a little bit that even RDNA 4 isn't going to be like the thing that we want as a result of this, because it took a lot of like, it's going to take a lot of research time and development to get first the chip, to have the hardware, and then also have software to utilize it, which is a completely different field. Like it took a while for NVIDIA to get FrameGen out. It took a while for them to get DLSS2. It took a long while for them to get ray reconstruction. And I just feel like, what is AMD? What can they do to get their foot in the door here on the gaming side of things, given all the inertia that's already happened? I don't know, but I wouldn't read too much into the sentiment, just like Rich has not read too much into it right now.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the bottom line. Gaming devices is quite specific and it doesn't mean desktop GPUs. So, it could, we hope. When you look at what Intel's doing as well, I mean, they decided they could not come to market without some sort of machine learning component.
It's just crazy.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so the fact that we could be seeing a next generation AMD architecture that doesn't have it seems unlikely to me. They must have seen the direction of travel from 2018 onwards, especially in 2020, right? So, and obviously, they would have been closely associated with Microsoft and the DX12 steering group. So they would have known, from the direct ML conversations onwards, how important it was going to be. And obviously, it's taking on a whole new level now. There's also the FTC leak
Right.
from Microsoft about their aspirations for the next generation Xbox, which is heavily ML based, or at least they're looking to leverage that for new gameplay opportunities. Anything to add to this, John? It is a bit too vague to really comment more about, but I'm interested in your thoughts.
I mean, it's too vague, like you say, but I mean, it could be a PS5 kind of system. It could be, I don't know, another handheld thing. I mean, who can say on that front, really? I was thinking like, oh, like AMD has been big in the handheld PC gaming space, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
they're in the Steam Deck, they're in the Ally, they're in a bunch of those machines. So I could see it behooving them to leverage things like AI to improve the effective visual quality on a handheld based system going forward. I assume that they'd be working probably with Valve again on the next evolution of the Steam Deck
yeah.
as well. So, I mean, those types of devices, it's most likely something like that, but I would imagine they will leverage whatever they're doing here in the PC space eventually.
Eventually.
It doesn't make sense to do it otherwise. If they launch a next gen GPU, like you say, without this kind of acceleration, these types of features, I don't know, man. That's not good.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens when time
I
passes.
mean, FSR3 has come along, and we haven't really seen too much evolution from the spatial upscaling side. FSR2 just seems to be, well, FSR3 contains FSR2, which doesn't seem to have evolved that much since we initially saw it, or the 2.2 variant.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the one where it's like pretty much that, more or less. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's too much more that we can add to that.
No,
Just looking at this question from Paul Calamata, do you think AMD's ML upscaling tech will be present in the PS5 Pro as its standout feature? If so, could this also have a positive cost implication for delivering a Pro-like upgrade without a major price premium over the base model? I think, if it's got it, great. it would definitely help because, FSR2 has just kind of been used and abused on the current generation consoles to the point where it really doesn't look great. You do need a higher quality solution. I'm not really too worried about games that actually go down as low as 720p in a dynamic resolution sort of environment. Obviously, it's not ideal, right? But the issue is that the upscaling to take you back to 1440p or 2160p just isn't really good enough to sustain that. And I think it can be done. I think it could work in a sort of console-like living room environment. But the fact that the Pro have additional GPU resources on top of that would obviously, hopefully, mean we wouldn't have to.